Hi, today I am reviewing the new horror movie Z, which was just released on May 6th. I'm going to say right at the start of this review, even though I am filming this review in Canada, where we pronounce that letter as Z, throughout the movie they pronounce it as Z, so throughout this review I will also be pronouncing it as Z and betraying my Canadian heritage. Speaking of Canada, what's interesting about Z is that it was shot in the Calgary and High River area, which is just over an hour from where I'm filming this review. As well, the director of Z, Brandon Christensen, is a native of Calgary. His previous/first feature film, Stillborn, was also shot in Calgary. While this geography may not be interesting to you, I find all of this incredibly interesting. There just isn't a lot of prominent directors from Alberta. This is part of the reason his new movie was on my radar. The other reason I have been looking forward to this new movie for quite a while is the fact that I really love the previously mentioned first film, Stillborn. I recommend it to friends pretty often. It's a creepy, personal, creative, scary, and well-made horror movie from start to finish. I've been talking so far about pretty much everything except for the movie itself. So how is Z? What is Z even about? Well, Z tells the story of a family who finds themselves being terrorized by their 8-year-old son's imaginary friend. This is a very familiar story. A kid talking to an imaginary friend/ghost that the parents can't see is a common trope that you've seen in a lot of different horror movies, such as Paranormal Activity, Hide and Seek, or Sinister. The events in this movie unfold A through Z for the most part. There are a handful of unexpected elements to the story along the way, but overall this is a pretty simple and straightforward story. Due to there not being a lot going on story-wise, I will admit there are times while watching where I felt my attention and interest were waning. Certain scenes felt less engaging than others, as if they were merely there to set up later scare scenes. However, I am certainly not arguing it wasn't worthwhile as a whole, as once those scare scenes happened, I was hooked. Brandon Christensen has a great control of these scenes throughout, building the tension through camera movement, constraint, lighting, and sound all working together in rhythm. There are a ton of really cool shots and creepy moments in Z. I kept jot notes of cool scares on a pad of paper while I was watching so that I could highlight some of my favorite scares in this review. As I was going over my notes afterwards, I realized just how many of them stood out for me. There are just so many cool and well done scares sprinkled throughout Z. As you can probably assume, this imaginary friend isn't so imaginary, and we do get glimpses of Z eventually. And man, the creature design is great. After all the build-up, the hinting, I really wanted to see what Z looked like, just as you do with any monster in a movie. After I got that first glance, however, I never wanted to see him appear on screen again. Unfortunately, I wasn't so lucky. As for the ending of this movie, I'm somewhat torn. Again, no spoilers here. I will just say there are elements I was unsure about. While there are other aspects of the end that I did really like the idea of, there is still a large part of it that just didn't sit well with me. In terms of comparisons, I think one of the closest comparisons for this movie is Lights Out. There are a number of similar scares, a similar-ish looking entity, and certain story elements that are extremely familiar. Just like Lights Out, what I found lacking with the story was more than made up with by the scares. If you like that movie, this one may be for you. Comparing Z to Christensen's first film, Stillborn, I cannot say that I liked Z more. While Z was still scary, I found Stillborn to be more unique, frightening, and impactful. Though if you were a fan of that movie, I can't say you won't still enjoy this one, just as I did. Overall, Z, or Zed if you're nasty, is an effective horror movie. It is well shot, there's good performances throughout, and it is chock full of great scares. I'm excited to check out whatever Christensen makes next, and I will be marking it on my calendar so I can watch it on opening day, just as I did with Z. If you want to watch Z, it is available to watch right now on Shudder, a streaming service exclusively for horror movies. If you do not have Shudder, you can use promo code SHUDDEN. I will put a direct link in my bio below so you can watch Z and any other horror movie that you would desire. That is my review of Z. If you like this review, please consider subscribing down below. I post new horror reviews every Friday. As well, if you've seen Z already, or if you've seen Stillborn, or if you plan to check out either after this review, please leave me a comment down below letting me know. Also as well, if you want to check out another great horror movie by a Canadian director, check out my review here of Backcountry. Anyway, that is my review. I will see you in the next one. Bye.